Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Cannabis in 5. I am your host, Shad Dales, and today we're going to dig into a major move out of Texas that could shake the entire U.S. cannabis and hemp markets. A new bill filed in the Texas House would ban all consumable hemp products containing THC, including Delta 8, Delta 9, and infused beverages. And make no mistake, if this passes, it's a complete gut punch to thousands of hemp-based businesses operating legally today. So let's unpack what this bill really is about, why it matters beyond Texas, and what kind of domino effect it could trigger nationally, especially with the next farm bill looming and the cannabis rescheduling process heating up in D.C. So let's get into it. Let's first begin with the bill in question. House Bill 4527 was filed by Republican Representative Brad Buckley. If passed, it would ban the manufacture and sale of any consumable hemp product that contains any amount of THC. That includes not only Delta 9 THC derived from hemp, but also popular alternatives like Delta 8, Delta 10, and infused drinks that have carved out a huge consumer base in Texas. And let's be clear, this bill doesn't set limits. It doesn't regulate, it outright bans. So if you're a consumer buying hemp-derived gummies at a wellness store or grabbing a THC seltzer at your local bar or operating one of the thousands of hemp shops in the state, this bill would shut you down overnight. Now, Texas has been here before. Lawmakers have tried to restrict these products in previous sessions. But here's what's different. This time, the legislation is coming directly from House leadership, and that changes the political calculus entirely. So let's look at the Governor Greg Abbott. For his part, he hasn't endorsed this bill yet, but he's repeatedly said that he wants stricter regulations on intoxicating hemp products. In press conferences, Abbott has emphasized the need to protect kids and rein in unregulated products, but he hasn't called for a ban. So HB 4527 might actually go further than what the governor is actually comfortable with. Or it could be a political test balloon, pushed by the House to see if they can set the tone going into a potential 2026 gubernatorial race or even ahead of the Farm Bill showdown in Washington. This bill also follows a familiar conservative pattern we've seen in other states, escalating from calls for regulation to outright prohibition, particularly on intoxicating cannabinoids that appear to mimic traditional cannabis but fall outside the state's medical marijuana system. So let's not forget, Texas has one of the most limited medical marijuana programs in the country. So hemp products like Delta 8 have become the go-to alternative for consumers and retailers alike. So that market isn't small. We're talking billions in projected national revenue. So let's now talk about the fallout. If HB 4527 passes, thousands of businesses across Texas will be forced to shut down or radically alter their inventory. This affects vape shops, CBD stores, bars carrying infused drinks, wellness chains, and a lot more. So we're not just talking about economic damage, we're talking about a state-sanctioned wipeout of a product category that consumers have embraced and in many cases relied on for relief. What makes this so disruptive is that these hemp products are legal under federal law, specifically the 2018 Farm Bill, as long as they contain no more than 0.3% Delta 9 THC by dry weight. Texas is effectively telling the federal government, quote, "We don't care." So that really sends a message to other conservative states watching this closely. If Texas can do it, then they can too. And that's where this really starts to spiral. So let's now zoom out. Texas is often a policy bellwether for conservative states. Think Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and even Tennessee. If this kind of legislation gains traction in Texas, there's a real risk we'll see copycat bans pop up across the country. And if that happens before the next Farm Bill is finalized, it could create pressure on Congress to step in and clarify or restrict the legal status of hemp-derived THC products nationwide. Which brings us back to the cannabis industry at large, because while some operators in the legal cannabis space have criticized Delta 8 and hemp drinks for skirting regulation, they should be careful what they wish for. This kind of ban blurs the lines between hemp reform and cannabis prohibition, and that hurts public momentum overall. And before we continue, let's pause and acknowledge a company that's helping dispensaries stay ahead of these constantly shifting regulatory landscapes. Dutchie is the all-in-one cannabis operating system, trusted by over 6,500 dispensaries, empowering more than $22 billion in annual sales. Dutchie provides all the tools dispensaries need to simplify operations, enhance their customer experience, and scale, all from one single platform. From point of sale to e-commerce, compliance, payments, and more, Dutchie helps dispensaries operate smoothly in markets that are anything but smooth. So if you're a dispensary operator trying to navigate change, whether it's hemp bans in Texas or evolving regulations elsewhere, Dutchie can give you the tech edge you need. To find out more, visit business.dutchie.com. Now let's get back to Texas and how this Texas bill could shake up the broader industry. One of the less talked about aspects of this legislation is how exposing a civil war inside the cannabis space itself. On one side, you've got hemp retailers and beverage brands who have built thriving businesses under the Farm Bill's definition of hemp. They've argued that consumers deserve access to low-dose, federally compliant products, especially in states where traditional cannabis is still illegal or inaccessible. Then on the other side, you've got regulated cannabis companies that argue Delta-8 and similar products are unsafe, untested, and sold with little to no oversight. They claim these products undercut the licensed market and weaken the case for full legalization, and they have a point. But here's the danger. If lawmakers can easily wipe out hemp products with the stroke of a pen, what makes you think that won't target cannabis next? So really be careful with what you're rooting for here. So really what happens next and what's the timeline here? HB 4527 has been filed in the Texas House, but it still needs to clear committee, pass both chambers, and then be signed by Governor Greg Abbott. That said, this isn't a throwaway bill. It's backed by serious political players and aligns with a broader trend among Republican lawmakers who want to draw a harder line between cannabis and hemp. And with the Farm Bill looming in D.C., Texas could be trying to get ahead of any federal ambiguity by locking down their own policy first. We've already seen the FDA and the USDA struggle with how to regulate intoxicating hemp products. Congress may ultimately be forced to draw a clear line, and Texas is trying to draw it for them. That's why I keep saying all eyes are on Texas right now, because this will be a proxy for a lot of conservative states. So what's the takeaway here? This isn't just about Texas, it's about the future of hemp-derived THC across America. It's about whether states can or should override federal definitions. It's about whether we're heading towards a regulated cannabis industry or a fractured patchwork of bans and gray markets. And for consumers and investors, it's a reminder that this space is still incredibly volatile. One bill in one state can send shockwaves through the entire product category. So keep your eyes on Texas, because what happens next could affect everything from your favorite infused beverage to the future, really, of cannabis reform in Washington. I'm Shad Dales. This is the latest Cannabis in 5. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We want to keep this conversation going, so leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. That's it for now. Make sure to stay connected. We'll see you next time at our latest podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and thanks again for watching.